Well, there's some pretty big news that's kind of breaking the internet. People are saying that you're getting another Mummy film back together. Is this true, or are you doing another?
Brendan Fraser just sat down with Jimmy Fallon on The Tonight Show, and within 5 minutes, he accidentally revealed something he clearly wasn't supposed to say out loud.
What do we know about it so far? Is there anything you're allowed to tell? Or
Well, we're gonna get the band back together.
Yes.
The only way to do it, right? So we're going to give the audience what they have been bothering. I know that, please wish me luck. I'm doing my best to get this 57-year-old gear in shape.
We're going to break down exactly what he said, what he stopped himself from saying, and why one specific phrase he used changes everything we thought we knew about The Mummy 4. Stay with me until the end, because the casting conversation happening online right now needs to be addressed directly. And honestly, some people are getting this completely wrong. If you're a fan of the original Mummy trilogy, if Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz are your people, if you grew up watching Rick O'Connell fight cursed mummies in the Egyptian desert and you've been waiting over 2 decades for this moment, you are in the right place. Hit subscribe right now because we cover Hollywood legacy films, 90s icons making their comeback, and everything in between. Now let's get into it. Segment 1, the Fallon interview breakdown. Let's start with the actual interview, because this is where everything begins. Brent Fraser appeared on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon and delivered the first real substantive update on The Mummy 4, coming directly from the lead actor himself. Not from a studio press release. Not from a trades report. From Brendan Fraser, in his own words, sitting across from Jimmy Fallon on live television.
Well, there's some pretty big news that's kind of breaking the internet. You're getting another Mummy film back together. Is this true, or are you doing another? You are doing it.
And the very first thing he said set the tone for everything. When Fallon asked about the movie, Fraser said this directly, "Well, we're going to get the band back together, the only way to do it. So we are going to give the audience what they've been bothering all of us for the last 20 whatever years." Read that again. Get the band back together. That is not a throwaway line. That is not just Fraser being charming and nostalgic on a late-night couch. That is a deliberate, specific phrase that tells you exactly what Universal's strategy is here. And when you stack it against everything else we already know, John Hannah officially confirmed back as Jonathan Carnahan, Rachel Weisz returning as Evelyn, Fraser back as Rick O'Connell. The phrase "band back together" strongly implies that the circle of returning cast members is wider than what's been publicly announced. Think about what that could mean. Are we talking about Oded Fehr returning as Ardeth Bay? Because that character was a cornerstone of both the first and second film. Are we talking about Arnold Vosloo back as Imhotep, the original mummy himself? Because if Universal is genuinely trying to pull off a full legacy reunion, those are the names that matter. Those are the characters that made the first 2 films work as a complete world, not just as a 2-person show. The chemistry in the original Mummy films wasn't just Rick and Evelyn. It was the entire ensemble. The Carnahans, the side characters who carried scenes, the dynamics between people who clearly had history with each other. That texture is what separated the first 2 Mummy movies from every generic action-adventure that came before or after them. And if Fraser's band back together comment means what it sounds like it means, Universal is trying to rebuild that exact texture from scratch with the original people. That alone makes The Mummy 4 one of the most significant legacy sequels in development right now. Before we go further, if this is the kind of content you want more of, Hollywood legacy updates, 90s icons, franchise comps done right, subscribe and turn on notifications. We drop this kind of deep dive ranked regularly, and you don't want to miss what's coming. Now back to Fraser, because he wasn't done talking, and this is where things get really interesting. Segment 2, the accidental slip. The second major reveal from this interview is the one Fraser almost didn't give us. When discussing the production direction, Fraser said, "What we're going to do is saddle back up and go back to the locations."
What we're gonna do is saddle back up, go back to the locations. I should probably stop talking like this.
And then he stopped himself mid-sentence. You could hear it in real time. Fraser realizing he was about to say something specific, something locked in, something he probably didn't have clearance to confirm publicly. He caught himself and pulled back. Now here's why that matters more than the quote itself. People who don't have anything significant to protect don't stop themselves mid-sentence. Fraser's instinct to pull back tells you that what he was about to reveal was a concrete, confirmed production detail. Not speculation, not a hope, not a we're thinking about it. Something real. Something locked in that he wasn't supposed to broadcast yet. The part he did confirm, going back to the locations, is already massive on its own. The original Mummy films were defined by their real on-location production. Morocco doubling for Egypt. Real desert, real heat. Real atmosphere that no green screen stage has ever successfully replicated. That grounded, tactile quality was a huge part of why those movies felt like genuine adventures rather than studio product. The 2017 reboot, we'll get to that, abandoned all of it. And it showed. Every frame looked like a controlled, artificial environment. The soul was gone. Fraser confirming they're going back to those locations, combined with Radio Silence's repeated public statements about on-location filming, means this production is making the same foundational choices that made the originals work. That's not nothing. That is the right call made early, and it signals that the people running this production understand what actually made those first two movies special. Segment 3. Fraser's physical prep and what it actually means. Third major piece from the Fallon interview. Fraser is actively training for the role. He told Fallon directly, "Please wish me luck."
I know that please wish me luck. I'm doing my best to...
I'm doing my best to get this 57-year-old gear in shape. Filming starts in August of this year. That gives Fraser roughly 4 months from the time of this interview to continue his preparation. And from what's been circulating, including a TikTok that's been making rounds from Fraser out in public, he is visibly putting in serious work. He looks good. He looks committed. But here's the context that matters. Rick O'Connell was never a bodybuilder. That was never the character. Rick O'Connell was a scrappy, resourceful soldier who survived through grit, instinct, and an almost supernatural refusal to quit. He was never physically dominant in the superhero sense. He was tough in the way that real people are tough, through persistence and personality more than raw physical power. Fraser doesn't need to look 30 years old. He doesn't need to be jacked beyond recognition. He needs to look like Rick O'Connell, which means he needs to look like Brendan Fraser, which he already does. What he has that no amount of training can manufacture for a younger replacement actor is the screen presence, the comedic timing, the natural ease, and the specific chemistry with Rachel Weisz that defined these films in the first place. Those things are not replicable. They exist between specific people who built something together over multiple films, and that's exactly the point we need to address next. Segment 4, addressing the replacement argument head-on. There is a conversation happening in various corners of the internet right now, Reddit threads, comment sections, certain YouTube videos, asking why Universal didn't simply cast a younger action star to play Rick O'Connell instead of bringing back a 57-year-old Brendan Fraser. This take is wrong, and it's worth explaining exactly why. The Mummy is not a generic action property where the lead character is an interchangeable archetype that any capable actor can step into. Rick O'Connell is not that. Rick O'Connell exists specifically because Brendan Fraser made him. The character and the actor are inseparable in the minds of every person who grew up with these films. That is not nostalgia talking. That is just the reality of how certain performances work. We have a direct, recent, and very expensive example of what happens when you ignore that reality. The Mummy in 2017, starring Tom Cruise. That film had a massive budget, a major star, a studio intent on launching an entire expanded universe. The Dark Universe, built around it. It had everything except the right people, and it failed. Catastrophically. Not just at the box office, but culturally. Nobody wanted it. The Dark Universe was dead on arrival, and the entire enterprise collapsed because the fundamental misunderstanding was that The Mummy is a franchise you can recast and reboot with new faces. You can't. The audience already told us that clearly. The reason The Mummy 4 exists, the reason fans have been asking for it for over 20 years, is specifically because of Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz. That is the entirety of the demand. Remove them from the equation and you don't have The Mummy 4. You have another reboot that nobody asked for. Just like Indiana Jones doesn't exist without Harrison Ford. Just like John McClane doesn't exist without Bruce Willis. There are roles where the actor and character become genuinely inseparable, and Rick O'Connell is one of them. And there's actually a compelling story angle in Fraser being 57 that people aren't talking about enough. Think about a Rick O'Connell who is older, who has seen things, who is being dragged back into something impossible for what might be the last time. There's a Nathan Drake in Uncharted 4 quality to that. The reluctant veteran, the guy who is too experienced to pretend this is fine, but too committed to walk away. That version of Rick O'Connell could be genuinely compelling in ways the younger version never had the chance to be. Segment 5. Is this nostalgia bait or something more? The last thing worth addressing is the nostalgia bait label that some people are already applying to this film. Yes, The Mummy 4 is leaning into its legacy. It's bringing back the original cast, going back to the original locations, and continuing a story that ended in 2001. That is all true. But none of that automatically makes it a cynical nostalgia cash grab. Look at what Radio Silence did with the Scream franchise. They didn't just replay the greatest hits. They revived those while introducing new characters, delivering new stories, giving the original cast meaningful arcs, and modernizing the franchise without erasing what made it work. The result was two genuinely well-received films that satisfied both longtime fans and new audiences. If Radio Silence applies that same approach to The Mummy 4, which everything we know about their process suggests they will, we could be looking at a legacy sequel that actually earns its place. The script has been ready. The production was progressing well enough that the release was moved up. The cast is committed. The director is right. This isn't just Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz coming back. It's them coming back with the right creative team surrounding them. That distinction matters enormously. The Mummy 4 is shaping up to be exactly what fans have been asking for since The Mummy Returns hit theaters in 2001. Brendan Fraser is training, the locations are confirmed, the band is getting back together, and Radio Silence is directing. Everything we know points in the right direction. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Are you confident in this production, or are you still waiting to be convinced? Hit the like button if this breakdown was worth your time. Subscribe if you're not already here, because we're going to be covering every update on this film as it comes. Filming starts in August. This is about to get real very fast. Until next time, we'll see you on the other side.